Alrighty, I am live. Just going to wait for a couple of people to join before we get started. I'm just currently trying to add my friend onto this live stream. I don't know if it'll work, but if it does, great. If not, then it won't be the end of the world, trust me. But just bear with me a moment. I'm just going to wait for a couple of people to join in and get themselves settled in before we actually move on with this review of Kerblam. A very exciting episode, I must say. Very, very exciting, very, very enjoyable. So yeah, we've got a lot to talk about. So I'm just going to do this little bit. I'm just going to try and see if I can sort it out. But if I can't, they'll just get straight onto the live stream and just forget about my friend. My friend can always just watch it from the live stream anyway, so it's not going to be a problem. Anyway, the thumbnail that you've seen at the moment with Lee Mac being at the front, that's not the final thumbnail for this video. Afterwards, I'm going to try and make a better thumbnail for this live stream review. I know I can do a better one, but just for the moment, I need to get this live stream done and dusted. So I'm going to probably work onto a better thumbnail after when this live stream has ended. But if you're watching this after when this live stream is finished, or when you're watching this from a different point, then at some stage you'll see the finished thumbnail at some point. So that will be the... Let me just quickly do this. My friend has just actually gave me some instructions. Go to the top of the page when you're live. There should be an address bar. Right click it and right. Message bar. Gosh, this is so difficult. How am I going to do this? Alright, is it like paste or something like that? Looks like I can't really. I don't know. I just feel a bit stuck. It doesn't really matter if I can't get my friend on here. I mean, we can probably just leave it. I just don't. I'm just not comfortable. And plus, I need to get on the live stream. I don't really want you to waste your time. Basically, me just trying to figure out something that might not even work. So I'll just leave it for the moment. I'm just texting my mate about it. Oh God. Okay, I just messaged him right now. Okay, then. So that kind of didn't work out as I wanted to. I wanted him to be on this live stream, but maybe with it's just that me not knowing how to do that, then, you know, I don't really want, you know, this entire live stream just to be just about 5 or 10 minutes of me wasting on probably, you know, something that might not even work. Trying to add some person onto the live stream is going to be quite difficult. And plus, I've not even had that much experience with doing like adding people to live streams and stuff like that. I've not really done that at all. So I think I'll do it maybe when it's not Doctor Who related. Maybe if it's just a normal chat, I'll try and see if I can add people onto live streams. But if it's just about my, like, say, live stream reviews, then I'll just completely just do it on my own, because I want to get over with this quite quickly. I know that the last couple of live streams that I've done, they've been very, very long, and I tend to rant for quite a long time on many of my reviews. Yeah, most of my live stream reviews have been like over an hour long, and I'm planning like to say maybe an hour long is a bit too much. Sometimes I rant too much, and yeah, sometimes time always gets the better of me, and then we end up always just coming to a point where it's just gone over an hour long, and you're still talking, Alex. It kind of gives the impression. So yeah, I'm just gonna wait another few minutes before we get stuck into episode 7 of Doctor Who series 11, Kerblam. Such a weird name, and yes, I've got the pronunciation right. Let's just hope that the other one, the next episode, is going to have an easier title, which will be called The Witch Hunters. That's a better title. But yeah, I've got to say that, well, as a initial thought reactions, when I went into this episode thinking what was going to happen, I initially thought that this was going to be sort of like a base under siege episode with, like, say, deadly postman delivery bots trying to kidnap people and completely kill them off, and like it's like the robots take over the entire system and completely automate the entire place, probably for the benefits of, like, robot wars or probably robot laws and stuff like that. That's what I initially thought. I literally thought it was going to be Postman Pat versus Doctor Who or meets Doctor Who or whatever, or it's going to be like a space version of Amazon. We were going to see the inside of what Amazon looks like from the inside as well as from the outside as well, but a space version. I kind of got that vibe about it. But yeah, those were my initial thoughts when I went into the episode. I was literally hoping that, can this episode add another level of threat? Because let's be honest, Doctor Who Series 11 hasn't been successful with having monsters as a threat. We haven't had anything that scary or anything as threatening as we would have liked. But as a whole, last 3 episodes left. We have episode 8, episode 9, and episode 10. Let's just hope that there is an actual threat with some of these episodes, because I've got to say that the whole debate about whether Doctor Who actually has a real threat is just a bit weird. I've got to say, it's not anything to do with Doctor Who's not going as successfully as as we expected, but I was expecting slightly a little bit more threat than I would have liked, because when you go into a Doctor Who episode, you usually have the Daleks, you usually have the Cybermen, or the Weeping Angels, or the Sontarans, or the Silence, or the Time Lords. You get a real sense of threat from those types of villains. So far in Series 11, we haven't really got that. The only type of threat that we sort of got in the whole aspect and the whole overall viewing of Series 11 was episode 4 with the spiders. That's been the only threat that we've had from Series 11. And I've got to say, those spiders still remains that's the biggest threat of them all, because obviously that episode had huge phobias of, spiders, and people are majorly scared of spiders. So I initially felt that that was going to be a life-threatening episode because people are really freaking scared of spiders. But in terms of not phobia-wise, robotic phobia, sometimes people kind of freak out when it comes to robots, and usually they have a really different perspective of robots as a whole in our general society, and they usually freak out about it. It's just how people, see robots nowadays, whether they are, robophobic or something like that. I know the Doctor has many friends that are robophobic, and yet, like she keeps on saying, but no, I've got to say, I really love this episode. Again, it's been 2 episodes in a row where I've really enjoyed this episode. I've got to say, from these last 2 episodes, The Demons of the Punjab and Kerblam were written by 2 different writers that were co-written with Chris Chibnall. I mean, let's just say that Chris Chibnall hasn't had he's done brilliantly with dialogue. I've got to say that. Chris Chibnall is a great showrunner. I must admit that. He's great with character development. He's great with storytelling. The one thing that he slightly has a lot of criticism for is that bringing the sci-fi element to life and also bringing the threats to life. That's the one thing that I think for me he struggles with. But when it comes to writers that can write great stories with threats, with an interesting plotline, with great characters, then you can automatically see that they are 10 times better than what Chris Chibnall has to do. And I've got to say, the writer of this episode, Pete McTighe, I hope I've pronounced his name right, who wrote Kerblam, I've got to say, he did a phenomenal job. Yes, I have to say that this episode might be up there as maybe like the top 2 best episodes of the series, as well as the Demons of the Punjab. I know, 2 amazing episodes within 2 weeks. I kind of get the feeling that when the third, like episode 8 comes around, it's going to be written by Chris Chibnall. It's like, oh, the expectations are going to go down once again. I hope it's not. I hope it's written by somebody else that's not from Chris Chibnall, because Chris Chibnall is going to write the finale no matter what, because he has to, because he's the showrunner. But I'm really glad that we're actually getting really exciting and really enjoyable stories from these types of writers. And I think that's fantastic. But knowing enough that this episode just had a load of elements into this episode. It had elements of sci-fi. It also had elements of great character-based moments, had great plot developments, so really spooky and atmospheric moments, like the whole warehouse when they were in the dispatch area, where I think it was 999/45. Basically, Daniel, who was played by Lee Mack, and I've got to say, I'm going to move on to it because I have a soft spot for Lee Mack, and I'm going to talk about his character a bit later on because, you know, standout character for me, unfortunately. He's just, I don't want to say too much. I am going to get onto him, but the reason why I feel like that he has a great character with him, I just want you to tell you that, you know, comedians in Doctor Who, they tend to go to a point where they take such of a sarcastic viewpoint in Doctor Who episode that they literally go to points where it's literally insulting the Doctor Who community with all of the offensive banter and all the humorous one-liners that aren't really funny. And I've got to say that, like I said, I am going to get onto it later on. Characters like Nardo, who started out to be very, very childish and very idiotic and bit, you know, stupid at times, but he was funny. But I've got to mention that comedians in Doctor Who episodes can work. They're not only there just to bring the humorous or the sarcastic banter that they do for many of their shows. They also they bring more than just that. And I think I've got a little special honorable mention for Lee Mack for his character in this episode. So yes, let's crack on with the beginning of the episode. And I loved how we got into the TARDIS vortex straight away. Like, the TARDIS was traveling through time and space. We got another look at the new vortex. I'm loving the new vortex at the moment. And we've also got the Kerblam Man. And I know we've seen this clip at the beginning of Children's in Need's little clip special. I've got to say that the first beginning bit was really good. Seeing how Jodie Whittaker was so excited about the Kerblam Man. Like, we did not know about space delivery whatsoever. But no, I thought it was very, very interesting. Trying to get into the action straight away, getting to the point and seeing the Kerblam Man reappear and then teleport away. And then they decided, let's go to Kerblam. There must be some trouble here because of the slip that said, help me. We automatically knew that we're going to go to the Kerblam. And I've got to say that the look and the CGI of Kerblam, or the planet of Kandoka, looks superb. Got to admit that CGI looks incredible. It looks so realistic, like a space version of Amazon. You know what? Many of us, I mean, I'm pretty much interested in this already, but seeing how Amazon it is on the outside, as well as on the inside, I was more interested than what the original Our Amazon looked like from the outside, as well as from the inside as well. But now that we have almost like a diagram, but a space version of Amazon, it kind of gives us kind of a little idea of what Amazon in real life looks like from the outside and from the inside. And I've got to say, the CGI and the work and the direction of all of these amazing shots, showcasing how massive the scale is of this organization, of the company of Kerblam, is just amazing. Absolutely phenomenal. I loved the CGI work on it. It was just showcasing that this massive organization of Kerblam has about 10,000 million workers, and yet it's got about 6 billion products going out every single day. And it's just crazy to see how this entire massive scale represents and resembles Amazon in real life. And of course, since this weekend particularly ended up having Black Friday, and we all know that Amazon gets really busy on Black Friday. So I've got to think to myself right now, did Doctor Who schedule this episode to be on the date where Black Friday was going to be announced? Because I know for the fact that Amazon is going to be incredibly busy, completely hectic when it comes to Black Friday, and they felt like, hey, let's make a Doctor Who episode about the space version of Amazon. Let's have killer robots in this episode. And I thought, hey, that's such of a great way to have a Doctor Who episode on the event of Black Friday coming out. And I thought, hey, that's such of a coincidence. So yeah, I've got to admit that Amazon in space was always going to intrigue me no matter what. But I was always intrigued to the overall outlook and the layouts of Amazon in real life, because some of us may just think that it's just a big massive warehouse, a big massive organization, but none of us actually know what it actually looks like from the outside or from the inside. And in some of the scenes where it got dark and it got really like toned down in light, and where Yaz went through some of the corridors, some of the Kerblammans were just standing there in the corridors with Dan, again, Lee Mack's character, just disappearing. I thought those little few scenes of him just walking through, the corridors of the warehouse just looked creepy. You know what it reminded me of? Reminded me of an episode back in the classic series. It reminded me of, I think it was Earthshock. You know, where Adric and the Doctor were walking down those long corridors filled with all these silos that would obviously contain Cybermen, but it kind of felt like that warehouse kind of resembles that. There was a creepy moment building up to some kind of incident in the warehouse, and I automatically knew for a fact that, something's going to happen to Dan, and I didn't want it to happen to him because, of course, I love Lee Mack to bits, but in a way, I kind of get the feeling that, yeah, the whole feeling of the entire warehouse and the whole organization of Kerblam felt really hostile. And I was glad they had that kind of feeling to it, being very, very hostile and dangerous, but knowingly enough, it had the creepy atmospheric feeling to it, knowingly enough that these robots, we thought that they were going to be the threats. And it took us to some time where we actually saw the robots being quite friendly, quite helpful towards the human staff. And I felt that they were very, very friendly and yet very creepy at the same time, but they didn't look like the real threats until to the point where Dan and Yaz found a robot, or I don't know what they're actually called. Now, they had different names. They were either called the teammate, or the Kerblam man, or the robot delivery postman. I don't know. They had all sorts of different names, really. But in a way, I really love the look of these robots. And I've got to say, I think these robots are slightly better than what we've had previously in New Who episodes. Like, I've got to say that these robots are much better than are better than the robots that we had in The Beast Below, or the robots that we had in what was it again? Smile, yes. But I've got to say though, Smile was a kind of a guilty pleasure for me, and I loved the robots in that. But I've got to say, in terms of creepiness, these robots were 10 times better. And referencing more Doctor Who episodes, this episode really referred to me back to a classic Doctor Who story that I haven't seen for about 3 years. Do you know what episode that was? well, it's clearly obvious. The Robots of Death from Tom Baker's era. Yes, like I said, I've not seen the Robots of Death for 3 years. That's how long I've not seen that episode, and it kind of gave me goosebumps, knowingly enough that these creepy robots were going to attack and kidnap these human workers. Knowingly enough that I had a real great feeling that the Robots of Death vibe was going to come back to me in my head, and I was feeling real goosebumps about the episode where Yaz was cornered by the two Kerblam mans. I was thinking, oh shit. Like she's cornered, then she went underneath all of the boxes, went out through the door, and then told the doctor, Ryan and Graham, about these Kerblam mans of that this man's missing. And she had a real great sense of worry. And knowingly enough that she knew the threat that she was under and she knew the danger, awareing the doctor and Ryan and Graham about the situation that they're into. And they all get into the situation where at the beginning they were really interested in Kerblam and how it was fully automated, but with 90% automated, 10% workers, which for me was a bit interesting. It kind of shows that even in that society where it has to be 90% automated robots, but it has to have a minimum of 10% of human, organic, people-powered workers. And I kind of get the feeling that, for me, it has to be knowingly enough that even if in the near future, even where a space version of Amazon is still being there still has to be people being involved. So it kind of gives me the feeling that Amazon is not fully automated. It's still got people there, but I'm wondering how high as a percentage is our Amazon fully automated? That I kind of get the feeling that we have more people working at Amazon and it's less automated. I don't know what the ratio is, but I found that it was very, very interesting that at least there are some people working here, about even 10,000 workers still working in the factory, still working in the warehouse. That's still quite a lot of workers. I don't know what the capacity is to our Amazon, but knowingly enough that Kerblam organization, that's just one in the galaxy. I mean, there's loads of Amazons all around the world. So figuring it out, our Amazon is slightly bigger than what their Amazon is, unless it could be like a more gigantic scale of it, if you know what I mean. But no, I found it was a very brilliant episode. I love the use of the Sonic. I don't think Jodie Whittaker, again, I think it's the overuse of the Sonic people discuss, and they really are taking offense and taking criticism that Jodie Whittaker is using her Sonic way too much. The only one moment that I really liked of how she used the Sonic was that, oh, we should be on the list. I was like, oh, there must be just a spelling mistake. Let's just have a look here. And then she was just doing the bzzz, and then automatically she just corrected the mistake. And that's what the Sonic should be used for, as a way of breaking in to Kerblam. Because usually enough, she uses ultrasonic to detect like alien activity or to sort out a solution or circuit. But that sonic screwdriver moment, that should be done all the time, because when you're trying to break into an organization, you're trying to go undercover, but you're trying to convince people that you've been here and you've been told that you're here to work. Unless just check the register. Zzz, yes, you are. You're already here to work. So it kind of gives us the feeling that that was a good moment to use the Sonic. Yeah, noticing about the characters, I think there were a lot of guest stars for this episode. I know there were only 3 or 4 or 5, actually 5. Knowingly enough, there were 5 guest stars that had a better role in this episode. Obviously, we had Judy Maddox, she was the head of people, I believe, and she was pretty much taking charge and keeping the morale happy, because in a business you always have to have happy morale, because if your manager is angry and if you're angry, you're not going to get along as you would like to. So having a head of people showcases that there's a lot of caution, a lot of care to give people support and to keep people working. And I found her very, very bubbly, found her very, very shaky and quite nervous at times. Like, she exaggerated slightly a bit too much, but it was like her nervous way of talking, because she didn't really have that kind of energetic boost about herself. Like, you know, when you talk to like somebody famous, you usually have you usually mess up your lines or you rant on a bit too much and like they can't really understand a word of it. It's like she ranted on for a bit too long, like about people power, like go organics and all that. And I kind of thought that was really good in a way that it was slightly awkward and yet quite optimistic in a way because it's her kind of personality to it. I also thought that Mr. Slade was very, very, very good. He reminded me a lot of I'm trying to put my finger on what kind of character he reminded me of from Doctor Who. Oh yes, of course, I remember now. In the war games where they had all of the world leaders and they had one from the German side. That I can't really remember his name. His name's a bit unfamiliar to me, but that general right there, the German leader in the war games, like the guy with the monocle and all that, reminds me of him. He looks so similar to I think it was General Snide, I think it is. I can't remember. I really can't. But looks so similar to him back in the classic series. But yeah, I found him very, very arrogant and very aggressive. Like he sort of felt like the idiotic prick of a manager that obviously would like to just push on production and don't care about the staff members. That kind of gives us a real life basis of a manager that could just really ruin like everybody's lives that were just being very, very miserable, very arrogant and very ignorant towards other staff members. So you kind of get the feeling that he might have been the threat, he might have been the villain, but he was like shouted away, like he was standing mainly in the background, just waiting just for the right moments. Because I know for a fact that, him as a character, I knew for a fact that when he backed down away from the Doctor's questions, I knew there's more to him that meets the eye. And it kind of resembles this entire episode. There is more to this episode that meets the eye. And it's like from one plot movement goes to another plot movement, and there's like different plot twists within the whole story to make this episode not just to seem like a filler episode. This episode didn't feel like that. It was completely a filler episode, knowingly enough that when we sort of have these types of episodes, some people have the feeling that it's just a filler episode just to get themselves through the week, and yet they can move forward to another exciting episode. I kind of didn't see this as a filler episode. I found this episode so intriguing and so fascinating, but knowingly enough that the system itself was actually calling out for help, not these workers, because for a fact, I know for that these workers weren't sending messages of help or a cry for help. The Doctor kind of got it wrong, because when the Doctor, Graham, and I think Mrs. Slade and Judy Maddox were in, like, I think it was like the final 10 minutes of the episode, they found a big massive vat of liquid ooze, and I thought, could this be where all of the workers have been liquidized into a goo substance? I kind of got the feeling that whoever's done this hates human life, and knowingly enough that they have to kill off all the workers for some devious plan of theirs. And I find that very, very, very sinister, like cold-blooded murder. And knowingly enough, it was Charlie in the end. And I've got to say, Charlie, who, as of this moment, right at this moment in time, is one of my friends watching this live stream. Sorry, I've got to mention your name, Charlie, but you're seemed as the villain in this episode. Sorry to be, the good cop in this episode, but also you're maybe the bad cop in this episode. Sorry about that, mate. But I hope you're not going to take it into offense. I do apologize, but obviously, why do you have to liquidize people to become like such of a goo substance so you can have people to run fully automated, Kerblam instead of these, idiotic delivery bots? Why'd you have to do it, Charlie? Why'd you have to do it, man? Look, trust me, he's going to text me later and he's going to go all out mental on me. Oh, gosh. I've still got a lot more notes here, but no, but I just found this episode just really interesting. And what's the most interesting bit about it is, like, I know that sometimes when you have episodes like this, you kind of have one of those companions that you can relate to. And I know that for a couple of episodes, like for episode 1, we saw more of the backstory between Graham and Ryan, not merely enough about Yaz. The same thing in episode 2. We saw more about Ryan and Graham, not more of Yaz. Again, for episode 3, we saw more about Graham, Ryan, and Yaz, which was really good. A really balanced out episode. Then in episode 4, we got a lot more of Yaz and as well as of Graham. Less of Ryan, unfortunately. Then in episode 5, I think it was balanced yet again. Graham, Ryan, and Yaz still had a lot more to do. And then in episode 6, Yaz had a bigger role, with Graham having, like, same again, a bigger role with Yaz. But unfortunately for Ryan, kind of felt a bit left out in that episode. But I think, again, this episode kind of felt like that everyone has a balanced role as a companion. I think everyone in this episode, in terms of the companions, they had pretty much a lot to do. But knowing enough that I felt that Yaz was kind of the weak link. Just so to say that she didn't do a terrible job, but just Ryan and Graham were given better, bits to do in the episode, so better moments. So I would say that Yaz's moments in this episode were good, especially with Ryan and Charlie going down the chutes, going to dispatch on the conveyor belts. Those scenes were great. I love those. And as well as, Yaz being there for Dan, because I know for the fact that right at the very end, she felt like that if Dan didn't swap scanners with her, it would have been Yaz dead instead of Dan. And I kind of got the feeling that was a real great moment for not only for Yaz, but for us, for Lee Mack as well, because you kind of get the feeling that I knew that at the very, very end that Yaz was going to touch upon the little necklace that Dan had of the little of his daughter, remembering his daughter. And I just love those little scenes of where Yaz and Dan were talking about families and talking about social issues, about his life and also her life as well. It was a really great moment of bonding between Dan and Yaz. And I felt that as Lee Mack as a comedian, you wouldn't usually see that him as a comedian, but I just felt it was a real bright moment, not only for him, but for also for Yaz as well, to really help connect with him as well as him connect to her in a way. So I kind of love the chemistry between both of them. And I have to say that Ryan felt overly very, very confident in this episode, knowing enough that this reminds him and represents pretty much like going back to work, because we didn't actually knew about Ryan's job or up until this point, because all we knew for a fact that she had a hard time trouble, he had a troubling time learning about coordination and confidence and building himself to become a better person, but we didn't actually know his job and his backstory behind how he got so well developed into these situations. And I've got to say, Ryan in this episode was awesome, absolutely awesome. I thought that his entire backstory of speaking to Kira and the doctor on how he's got used to this entire packaging, system so well in such a short space of time. Like, he knows everything. Like, it's like when you stand into a business and you know what needs to be done. It's like everyone's looking around. It's like, how's that person joined so fast and knows pretty much everything off by heart? I mean, it kind of gives us a feeling that Ryan pretty much feels like the genius out here, because he knows the layout of this warehouse. He pretty much knows it at the back of his hand. Like, he's done this before, unless he's probably dealt with robot monsters down his work in the past. I don't know if he's done that before, but it kind of gives us the feeling that Ryan definitely experienced more of his work as a packaging worker, and he's learned so much traits and so many tips from doing this type of job that he actually represents this episode right here, right now. And I kind of get the feeling that putting what you've used to do in your job actually applies here. And I kind of get the feeling that his knowledge of doing, or feels like he's back at work, kind of gives us the feeling that he's in his zone and he knows what to do. He's on the situation, like, bam, always. And that's what I love about Ryan in this episode. He's so on the mark. He's on point every time. He knows what to do. He even suspects Charlie of what he's actually done to Kira. And I've got to say, like, those moments with Kira and Charlie, I've got to say that I like the moments where they were together, but in a way, it kind of felt a bit awkward and a bit wooden. Didn't feel realistic. It knew, like, it was a workplace crush that Ryan said, but it wasn't really like an ongoing like romantic crush. But I felt that both of them were nervous, and it is nervous to start a workplace crush. But knowingly enough that when we saw Kira in that entire, I think it was like a cell that had like basically mirrors kind of refracting off her, so we could see Kira, but Kira couldn't see them in a way. And I kind of got the feeling that, Kira was going to open up the box, which definitely contained deadly bubble wrap, and I'll get onto that a bit later on. But knowingly enough that when Charlie realized that it was bubble wrap inside the package, he knew for a fact that he couldn't do anything. Like, he was trying so hard trying to get Kira out of that situation, but knowingly enough that he knew for a fact that what was going to happen was on his behalf. And he didn't really plan Kira to be killed in that situation. And I'm glad Ryan picked up on it, because sometimes in episodes, when you see somebody not being as they are supposed to be, actually, when you see a companion actually noticing that he is actually the cause for all of this, and like Ryan said, you knew something about you, didn't you? It's like Ryan picked up on it straight away, and kind of gives us the feeling that all of the blame is pointed at Charlie because of what he's planned. Kind of gives us the feeling that we kind of thought that it was the robots and the system hijacking all of the people and basically liquidizing all of the people and actually sending out death bubble wrap to all the customers. We thought it was the system and the robots doing all the killing. But no, it was him, because nobody suspects the maintenance man. And I really loved that. I felt that Charlie felt like in a great situation to do so much damage, because nobody would suspect or question the maintenance man of doing something of this abysmal on this scale, murdering tens and thousands of people who will deliver bubble wrap to their homes. And then when they pop the bubble wrap, tiny little bombs will explode and cause a chain reaction within all those bubble wraps. Phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. This is why I've got to say that this episode kind of feels like the perfect Doctor Who episode that we've got so far. This has felt more Doctor Who-ish than any other episode that we've got, because Doctor Who, what it does best, it has really great moments of character-based moments. It has really great movement with plot twists. It can turn a villain from what you were expecting the monsters of this episode to be, with the robots and the system to go rogue and go a bit haywire. We kind of thought it was the system acting like a prick and killing off all these workers. But then we didn't actually question the maintenance man hiding in the shadows and pretty much adjusting all of these changes, all of these updates. He was the one who planted the bubble wrap inside those packages. He was the one who created the bubble wrap in the first place. He is the one that changed the cybernetics in the robots. He was the one who set this all up. Charlie was the one who set this all up. He was the one who was the villain. And when you see somebody like that, a protagonist who seems plain and simple, kind of felt pretty normal and quite innocent, turned out to be the actual villain, then you kind of feel like, oh shit, it's actually him. He is the one who's done all this. Kind of gives us the feeling that we've been acting all stupid, thinking it was the robots or the system, but no, it was him all the time. Because knowingly enough that we thought it was pretty much the system going rogue. But I've got to say that it was a brilliant plot twist from Pete. Again, I'm trying to, I think it was his name, Pete Matai. Yeah, brilliant plot twist, I must say. Because, look, I think threats can come in all different shapes and sizes. But knowingly enough, when it's somebody trying to be a protagonist and trying to change, like, the whole view of robots automating Kerblam. Excuse me again. I think it was him all along that was trying to change Kerblam from killing off all of its workers, but knowingly enough that killing off all these workers was going to send the entire laws of Kadola to question Kerblam about its workforce, and whether these robots would actually take the blame, would actually make more sense that they could get the blame for something that they haven't done, which means that it can, erode their trust on, people trusting automated robots to do the jobs, which means that the entire condoning law and rights would mean that Kerblam must be people fully automated, and kind of gives us the feeling that this is not what he wants to do, but he's doing it because he wants a better future for himself, even risking all of the people who will be killed by that bubble wrap. And I've got to admit, it is a fantastic way to end an episode, giving the villain what he deserves. Most of the episodes, when we've got a villain, the villain always has to disappear somehow. But no, this writer manages to kill off that character completely because of what he did and what he deserved. For me, that is a fantastic move by this writer. This is the reason why I think this ending was 10 times better than last week's episode. This episode had so many layers, so many different flavor profiles of character-based moments and real great scary moments, atmospheric moments with the warehouse and all of the temporal shutdowns. Kind of gave us the feeling that some of these, shutdowns or some of these interferences are going to go rogue even more, and there's going to be a complete shutdown of the entire organization. I knew it was going to be coming straight away, because I knew for a fact that when you have one, then you have two, and then you have three, something's wrong. And then all of a sudden, it goes into red alert, and the entire complex has just been shut down. And it's like, what we're going to do? I was like, since everything's all turned off, everything's been shut down. And it's like, if everything's shut down, why is that robot still working? And it's like Ryan again picking up on the obvious bits. And I've got to say, this episode was just enjoyable, absolutely enjoyable, end-to-end stuff. This has felt like Doctor Who as we know it. I've missed this. I've missed where you had an episode where you think he was the villain, but he's not. And when you had an episode that was fully enjoying with fast-paced movements, great character moments, and great plot twists. When you had an overall feeling, an overall viewpoint of what this episode was about, this kind of feels like proper Doctor Who. This has felt more Doctor Who-ish than any other episode that we've had so far. And I find that very, very, very good. Gotta admit that this episode has just blown my mind, really. It has, really. And look, I've got to say that every single character had a real good part to play. Even the guest stars, even Kira, even for the moment where she died, up until that point, she was incredibly energetic, enthusiastic, and cheerful, and so bubbly, and so happy, that you couldn't really dislike her for being a worker at a place like Amazon, like a space version of Amazon. You couldn't really hate her. I kind of felt a bit emotional and a bit teared up when Kira was going to pop that bubble wrap, and I knew for a fact that that was going to break some people's hearts, because everyone kind of lightened up to Kira because of what kind of a person she was, a hard worker, but then deserves that. That's just dumb, just plain old dumb. And in terms of story-wise, that was, in terms of not as a wasteful death, but as a way to make Charlie realize of what he's actually done. It's actually made him worried of a crush that he's fallen in love with. And then sooner or later, she gets caught up and then ends up getting killed because of what Charlie has already planned. And it also sends a message to the system to stop Charlie from what he's actually doing. So it's not actually Charlie that's actually, how am I going to put it this way? It was not Charlie that kind of felt like, how am I going to put it? It's like the system knew that it had to take some time before Kerblam, or the system knew that Charlie was the threat that made the changes to the robot, made the changes to the bubble wrap, because of course he had experience in explosives and cybernetics and I kind of got the feeling that the system picked on him straight away and sent robots down to down to him to kill him because he was the problem. We were walking around with the problem all along. He was completely like covered away from the shadows, and when you have a villain that just sides away from being the real villain, just like stands in the corner and tries to be all sneaky and very, very creepy, you know for a fact that some kind of weird moment or devilish moment is going to be building up. And I did not even expect Charlie to be the bad guy in this episode. I literally thought it was going to be a problem in the system, but no, it was the system that actually sent that urgent message of help. And now it makes all sense because Charlie wanted a better future, to get rid of all the robots, to have people powered, Kerblam, and to completely erode people's trusts of fully automated villains or fully automated robots. So it kind of gives us the feeling that he wants to stop the robot wars from going on, to completely converting every complex to be fully automated by robots. He wants everything to become people powered, and that even still means killing about tens of thousands of people, delivering bubble wrap to their doorstep, which kind of gives us the feeling that something so lovely to do. It's like every action you do, you always have bubble wrap with it, and it's like every moment where you see bubble wrap, your instant thought is the puppets, and when you do that, you see so much enjoyment. And even at the beginning, when Ryan took the bubble wrap, he was popping it straight away. But hang on, now that I've said that, since that's weird, I've just had a theory. You know, at the beginning of the episode where the Doctor was delivered that parcel with the fez on top, I've got to admit, the fez on Jodie Whittaker looks amazing. Looks really good. And I kind of had the feeling that Matt Smith, during his time, must have sent probably an order for another fez, probably behind the TV version of Doctor Who, probably ordered a fez, way behind, and then it's already caught up with Jodie Whittaker in this time zone. And it must have been Matt Smith who probably ordered a fez, like, I can buy a fez. And probably must have been the reference to that particular moment. I kind of get the feeling that Matt Smith must have said to himself, like, I think it was like in the Big Bang or something, like, a fez? I can buy a fez. And kind of makes us feel like that he's ordered a fez from Kerblam, and Kerblam has delivered it within, like, say, I don't know, 8 years' time, and then all of a sudden a fez has just arrived. So I feel sorry for Matt Smith watching this episode, because he could have said that was supposed to be my fez. No, but going back onto the point where Ryan took the bubble wrap from the beginning of the episode, I heard a pop and a pop and a pop. So he was playing around with the bubble wrap. How did they not explode? If that bubble wrap was made by Charlie, unknowingly enough that he was the creator of that deadly bubble wrap, I don't know if they created deadly bubble wrap before it got to the Doctor, or it might have been something afterwards, because I saw at the very, very end, Graham took the bubble wrap from the parcel that the Doctor got. And like the Doctor said, hey, you sure you want to be, playing around with that? You sure you want us to get blown up? And then Graham kind of left it alone. But does that mean, though, that whatever Ryan's popped, like he's popped the bubble wrap at the beginning of the episode, but there was no explosions. And yet at the very, very end of the episode, maybe one pop of the bubble wrap could result deadly means for the Doctor, Yaz, Ryan, and Graham. And I kind of get the feeling like, hang on, that doesn't make any sense. Like, how does that bubble wrap not explode at the beginning? I would have liked it if that bubble wrap did blow up at the beginning, and then we would have got an idea of what was actually going on. But it was a great reveal to the bubble wrap being a death trap in every single parcel. I just love that. I'm now a bit worried when Black Friday comes around, where I've got like a delivery of an Amazon delivery, and then bubble wrap comes out. I was like, stay away from that bubble wrap. Do not pop that bubble wrap. kind of gives me the feeling, it kind of gives me goosebumps. Like, do not pop the bubble wrap. Because you never know, the same thing might happen to me. You know what? All of these Doctor Who episodes where sometimes you're afraid of the dark, or you're afraid of spiders, or even so you're afraid of the one thing that you love to do when you get a new thing delivered to your doorstep, pop bubble wrap. And when you have Doctor Who making something that like bubble wrap so dangerous and such of a death trap, what can you do more than just smile and credit for what they've done? Death bubble wrap is an ingenious idea. I mean, I wouldn't have thought about that myself, honestly, because, you know, I literally thought that how were they going to kill everybody with these robots, or where the robots going to kill everyone? I mean, everyone loves bubble wrap. Everyone wanted to pop bubble wrap, have that as a death trap. You've got a mind-blowing idea there. So I've got to admit, the ideas and the reveals, the plot-based moments, the character-based moments, everything is just so damn good. I don't think I've got a complaint with this episode. I'm trying to find myself one nitpick with this episode, but I don't think I can. I don't think I can mention a single concern about this episode. I thought this episode was just bang on perfect. Again. And I've got to admit that throughout the entire episode, this episode definitely had the best balance of Doctor involvement with companion involvement ratios. They got the balance perfectly right. The Doctor was completely in control of the situation, but wasn't completely like in your face, like the Doctor was completely taking control of the situation like straight away. At the beginning of the episode, Jodie Whittaker was quite bubbling, quite energetic to know how Kerblam worked and how it was fully automated. She was asking questions, and it was very, very interesting to see how Jodie Whittaker was so energetic at the beginning, but then towards the middle, you kind of got the feeling that Jodie Whittaker's feeling something's not right here, and she becomes a bit bombastic towards Judy Maddox and with Mr. Slade. You kind of see the real anger and the aggression, like, I hope you're not lying to me, because if you do, you have me to answer for. I love that. I love that from Jodie Whittaker. That is just pure Jodie Whittaker. Because knowingly enough, I was hoping for some more angry and vicious moments from her. I like those moments like that just showcased more about Jodie Whittaker than, you know, in the last episode, we saw that Jodie Whittaker was very heroic and very badass. And again, she is in this episode. She has quirky moments at times. She has really good moments of dialogue. But I think these moments where she's very, very aggressive, and even towards the end, I found her very, very aggressive and very furious and infuriating with Charlie. Like, Charlie, this is your last chance. Get up here now. Like, those types of Sherry moments, like, Jesus. I mean, if Jodie Whittaker was like saying that, I would just run up the stairs straight away. And like, wow, like Jodie Whittaker going to that level of screaming at Charlie in a very, really aggressive manner just showcases kind of so much that Jodie Whittaker can offer. Just Jodie Whittaker had a phenomenal performance yet again. I just love Jodie Whittaker right now because I think every single performance has just been awesome. Absolutely awesome in this series. And I'm just going to have a little look at my notes and just trying to see what I missed. Yes. I think definitely Chris Chibnall has stepped up his writing. I think his writing has definitely changed from the last two episodes. I think Chris Chibnall needs to step up his writing, though, because I feel like I said, in terms of killing off a character, he hasn't really done that. He's pretty much kept all of the villains in this episode not to be killed off. And I kind of get the feeling that maybe in the finale, are we going to get a collaboration of those villains that disappeared? Are they all going to come back and team up together? I don't know. Maybe we'll just have to find out. But I think Chris Chibnall needs to definitely step up with showcasing the Doctor can be bombastic and furious. If Chris Chibnall can do that, then I can forgive him for being less, like, say, less harsh on Jodie Whittaker. Because Jodie Whittaker is a phenomenal actress, and putting her in a situation where she's angry, and she needs to be angry and needs to be serious, then Chris Chibnall should be more than confident enough to do that. So I'm already loving Jodie Whittaker at the moment. Let's just see some more character improvement from Chris Chibnall. And I've got to say that Graham and Yaz and Ryan were excellent in their performances. There was some great banter, some superb performances. And I've got to mention that there were some references, like the Doctor mentioned Agatha Christie, and I remembered the episode of The Unicorn and the Wasp. I love references to old Doctor Who episodes. It just reminds us of the good old days of the Doctor still has memories of those episodes that we've seen with all the Doctors, and it kind of gives us a feeling like, oh, I want to go back and rewatch that episode again, because it kind of gives us a feeling, that little bit of referencing. This is the reason why I love references in Doctor Who. You kind of get references like this, like, I'm going to rewatch that episode again. The biggest reference for me in this episode has got to be that these robots reminded me like the robots of death. Like, I haven't seen them for 3 years. Reminded me so much of them being creepy and very isolated and quite unusual with their ways of how they killed people and how they took over the entire ship, and kind of resembles this as like a modern day version of the robots of death, but in an Amazon warehouse. That for me is just fantastic. Great stuff from Doctor Who. And let's have a look again. Yeah, like I said, I think Charlie was the main threat, the protagonist, trying to kill off all of these customers because he felt it was the right moment, because he knew for a fact that the system was catching up on him, but the system knew that he was the threat and had to solve it. But knowingly enough that Charlie had a good performance, I very much enjoyed his change of personality, where he was worried yet anxious about Kira, then scared and petrified when he saw Kira die, and then all of a sudden we saw the real, the real anger and the fluctuated, flustered personality of Charlie. I kind of got the feeling that he was really, really good. A real solid performance from Charlie. And I thought everyone had a real good performance as well. Just going to check up on anything I've missed. No, but I just felt that this episode had a real good direction with it. It had a real good, it had a real good vibe to it. Like, this space version of Amazon represents like the Amazon version that we have nowadays. Kind of makes us feel like that we shouldn't really have 90% automated robots controlling, the entire system. But knowingly enough, we have a 10% of people that knowingly enough that they've got missing, and that soon 10% will go down to 7, and soon go down to 5, and soon eventually 1%. So it kind of gives us a feeling that Charlie planned it all out, trying to get the robots to look like they were the guilty ones, and to completely have factories that are completely automated by people, not by robots, fully people. And I love the motives to him. I think this episode was just perfect. Just perfect. Again, like I said, this episode kind of felt the most Doctor Who-ish episode that we've had for some time. I've got to admit that this episode was just outstanding. Absolutely outstanding. Yeah, I mean, I'd love to rewatch this episode right here, right now. I'd love to, because it's like one episode that you want to watch over and over and over and over again, and I never get bored of it. I never do. I've just got to say, I might even rate this episode a 10 out of 10 again. I mean, rating 2 episodes 10 out of 10 from last week's episode to this episode, another 10 out of 10 does seem quite unusual for me. I don't usually rate 10 out of 10 straight away, like after every consecutive week. I know I've done it with like the other episodes. I rated one episode 9 out of 10, another 9 out of 10, and another 9 out of 10. And then the 4th episode was a 9 out of 10. The 5th episode was a 6 out of 10. Then the 6th episode was a 10 out of 10. And now this episode is sort of, for me, I'm going to go not one higher, but not one lower. I'm going to go for a 9.5 overall. And let's talk about the character that I wanted to talk for a while. And I've got to admit that I was expecting this character to be as I expected him to be because of what he did in the past, like comedy shows like Not Going Out and Would I Lie to You. I always had a suspicion that Lee Mack was always going to had a moment in Doctor Who. But I was just thinking, what was he going to do most of all? Was he going to take the piss? Was he going to really insult the entire Doctor Who community? I really had a fear that Lee Mack was going to really, I don't know, like change this show around to become, instead of a PG show, like insult the show way too much with ridiculous lines like that. I was like thinking, no, let's just hope that Lee Mack just does a decent performance. But I must admit, you know what? Like I said, comedians in episodes can work. You saw how Nardo worked in series 10, but he had a constant run of 12 episodes. So you could automatically see the changes in him from each episode to each episode. But this is just different beyond different. You have a comedian that is just in an episode for about 15 minutes, not a lot of the whole episode, for just 15 minutes. We learn so much from Lee Mack's character that we do from Charlie's. Unbelievable. I've got to admit, I think I might be doing one liking Lee Mack in this episode at the moment, but I've got to say, as a personal note, as Lee Mack is one of my favourite comedians of all time, I've got to admit, he's probably my favourite comedian of all time. And to see him in a Doctor Who episode has just lightened me up a lot. Because it knows for a fact that since this episode was one that I really liked, I know for a fact that I can rewatch this episode over and over and over again, and I can see my favourite comedian in that episode. For me, I just love that. And Lee Mack had a fantastic performance. He was not sarcastic. He wasn't idiotic. He had occasionally some really, really good one-liners. And then for the rest of the episode, had really good dialogue. We saw him on a poster. I know, I really want that poster so badly. If that poster is available anywhere else, I'm going to get an order for it. Maybe for Black Friday, I don't know. No, I definitely felt that Lee Mack, for me, changed my whole viewpoints on him. Not only as a comedian, but as an actor. Because you can say that Lee Mack is an actor, in a way. Not only just as a comedian, but he's a great actor as well. I've just got to say that Lee Mack for me, he gets an honourable mention for me. And I don't usually give honourable mentions to characters, but for this episode, he deserves my honourable mention because he was just all out sensational in this episode. I just really enjoyed his performance. He wasn't rude, he wasn't arrogant, he was calm, he was relaxed, he was quite sensitive at times. He always had a humorous attitude, he had really good dialogue, and he was very, very responsible to his approach to his job. And he felt like he was going to be there to look out for other people, and especially Yaz, because Yaz was in that situation. No one really knows that if Yaz went down there to dispatch 999/54, he knew for a fact that there was going to be a moment where Yaz was going to get hurt or probably get even killed. But Dan took over and, took Yaz's place. And in a way, it helped save Yaz's life in the end. And I've got to say that if Lee Mack didn't do that, then we would have not had Yaz at all in the TARDIS team. And I've got to say that throughout the entire series, I was completely wrong about, Yaz is such of a great companion. And to have Lee Mack as like a one-off character, to not be fully in your face, he was just sensational. He was just absolutely sensational. I've got to admit, like Lee Mack as from a one-off performance in Doctor Who, this could be like just the one moment where my favorite comedian is in a Doctor Who episode, and I love him to bits. He's just phenomenal. I love him. Even the one silly liners, but even so, all of the great pieces of dialogue, all of the social bonding that he does with Yaz, it's just amazing. Really is phenomenal from Lee Mack. And yes, I think that is all for this episode. And I'm going to rate, like I said, this episode a 9.5 out of 10. But I could be wrong, though. Now, if you're seeing this now, the thumbnail isn't quite finished yet. I don't think that is going to be the final thumbnail. I'm going to be working on another thumbnail straight away after when this live stream has finished. I don't think I'm going to, like, thing is, I'm going to just try and make a better thumbnail because I know I could do one better. But if you're watching this at a different time, you'll possibly see the end finished thumbnail, probably. If not, then it might take me only about like an hour to do. So it should be a quick change, really. But who knows, really. But I've got to say that I'll change that thumbnail straight away. So, you know, hopefully it'll be all right. I just want a thumbnail that is like slightly better than all of the other ones that I've done, really, in a way. So yeah, I've got to wrap up this live stream anyway. And yeah, thanks everyone for watching for this live stream, everyone. I hope you have enjoyed this episode. Please like this video and make sure you please comment down below your entire opinions on Kerblam. If you want it, Kerblam it. I've always wanted to say that. But no, this episode has been a real great episode. And I wish for better episodes to come in the near future. We've only got 3 more episodes left of Doctor Who, and I've got to say, I'm a bit worried that there's not going to be enough episodes for us to enjoy. It kind of feels like that. We're already 7 episodes in, and it's like, hang on, we are really like towards the end of series 11. It just feels like it's just gone so quick. But no, it's been amazing so far, and I can't wait for the next episode, The Witch Hunters. And like I said, everyone, please comment down below your entire opinions on Kerblam. And if you're watching this from, you know, another time, then please make sure you comment down below your entire opinions of Kerblam. I'm really interested to hear your opinions. And make sure you hit that subscribe button for more Doctor Who live streams. Thanks so much, everyone, for watching, and I'll see you all next time for another Doctor Who Series 11 live stream on episode 8, The Witch Hunters. Again, another historical. Could it be the same as the Demons of the Punjab or Rosa? Historicals are definitely succeeding in Doctor Who. And knowingly enough that this is like, just to say as a recent message, I've been hearing rumours all throughout the week that Jodie Whittaker and Chris Chibnall might leave at the end of 2019, or is rumoured to not continue until series 12. And I've also heard rumours, and it has been confirmed, that Doctor Who won't get a Christmas special, which is really frustrating. But we will get a New Year's Day special. I don't know whether you agree with that, but one thing I do miss out, though, is Doctor Who on Christmas. That's what I miss out. And I think since we're not going to have a Christmas special, I'm going to be really depressed when it comes to Christmas Day, because there's no Doctor Who to look forward to. But in the coming New Year, a New Year Day special, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what the story's going to be, but I do hope they are going to bring back maybe the Daleks, because I think that we need some sort of threat. And maybe if the Daleks do return, then yes, bring it on. Bring the Daleks back for the New Year Day special. Bring the Daleks back, please. Oh, that'd be amazing. So yeah, definitely. That's all I've got to say for this video, guys. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time for another Doctor Who Series 11 live stream. Until then, take care of yourselves, and I'll see you later. Thanks for watching, everyone. Goodbye.